Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NIGP webinar, Working in Harmony Across the Generations, presented by Penny Owens. Penny has over 25 years experience in public procurement, both in local and federal government. She currently serves as the Assistant Purchasing Agent for the City of Knoxville and has a CPPO certification. Penny is a member and a past president of the East Tennessee Purchasing Association and was awarded their Buyer of the Year and Volunteer of the Year award in 2017. She is a member, past president, and current nominations chair of the Tennessee Association of Public Purchasing, is an NIGP chapter ambassador for Area 3, covering Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Ontario, Canada, and is also on NIGP's consulting team managed by Periscope. We are happy to have her today presenting. If at any time during the webinar you need technical assistance, please let us know in the Q&A box. During the presentation, you may submit questions to the Q&A box on your screen, and we will take those during specified parts of the presentation. With that, Penny, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you for everyone that is on the webinar today. I'm excited to talk to you all about this. This session actually, for those of you who were at Chapter Academy in February, we did some roundtables and did kind of a 20-minute snippet of this presentation, and I was asked then to do a full-blown presentation of this at one of my two chapters here locally in Tennessee in the spring, and so now we're going to do an expanded version of this here through the webinar. So glad you all could join us. For those of you on the call who haven't attended Chapter Academy before, let me put a plug in for that. I highly recommend it. It's a great activity to do through NIGP. So with that, we'll go ahead and kind of kick it off. Sorry, my computer's not wanting to work. There we go. So with our current situation in our chapters and in our workplace, we have multiple generations in both areas that we're working with. And it really is an unprecedented time, we have up to 5 generations working together in our chapters. I know in our chapters here locally, we have at least 4 generations of folks that all work together. And if you think about that, that is a span of 75 years or more potentially, depending on your members. And of course, we all know generations are all different. I'm sure some of you may have heard your parents or your grandparents say, "Oh, your music, it just sounds like noise," or "Oh, your clothes, what on earth are you wearing?" So as you just know from life in general, we all think differently about our different generations. So I want to share this comic with you, and I'll give you a second here to read that. So yes, I am actually presenting this webinar today to you from my grandpa box that's on my desk here in my office. But it really is kind of an interesting thing, and we'll talk about this a little bit more as we go through the talk of the generations. Younger people are really tied to their devices, but some of us seasoned people are as well. So I thought this was a cute little comic about the grandpa box. So let's talk about these generations, who they are. We start with the traditionalists, who typically are those born before 1946. We have the baby boomers born between 1946 and 1964. Your Gen Xers born 1965 through 1980. Gen Ys, or the Millennials, which has become sort of a mean word at times, and we don't want that to be that case. So they're born between 81 and 95. And then we have the Gen Zs, who are kind of new to our offices, but we're in chapters, but we're getting those folks in, born 1996 through 2012. So you can see that's a wide range of years that we're working with in our chapters. So let's see, there we go. I'm sorry, my slides are not advancing. There we go. So which one are you? Let's do I think we have a little quiz that will pop up. There we go. Fill that in, please, and just mark based on those years, which one that you you fall into, which one are you. I just want to kind of get a flavor of what the crowd is out there so we can see that.
Yeah, we'll leave this open for another 10 seconds or so. And Penny, here are the results.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, great. So no traditionalists, okay. But we have a lot of boomers, a lot of Gen Xers, and some Gen Ys. That's great. No Gen Zs today. Okay. So the reason I wanted to do that, I wanted you to kind of be able to see that as we talk about, so you can see the different generations even we have just here on the webinar today. The traditionalists, this kind of talks about each generation and some of their typical traits. So with a lot of the traditionalists, they may not be so up on technology. They're a little more hesitant. They may not embrace it as much as a lot of us do. It's hard for some of them. I know we've seen some folks across in our chapters who are like, oh, please don't make me do anything with the website. That's not my specialty. Their communication style tends to be more formal. So they will talk on the phone more so probably than emailing even. And they like face-to-face conversations. They don't necessarily just want to text you or talk to you via email. We have their reporting style is hierarchy a lot of the time. They're top down, don't go above your level, you got to report to your direct person. So they're very structured in their hierarchy. Their needs tend to be, given their age, for one, they have more vacation time built up possibly, so they may take more time off. They might not be as available during some of your chapter events that somebody younger would be that's around more often because they don't have as much time off. From a office standpoint, they need more full medical benefits. Their professional development, they're still want kind of like the face-to-face classes, the seminars. So you'll see some of that. They might not want to do webinars like that, like we're doing today. As you saw, we don't have any traditionalists on the webinar today. And then mentoring, they want to ensure they do the knowledge transfer. So these are your people in your chapters who have probably been around, and we want to make sure we learn from them and get their knowledge. So there we go. Okay, so our next one is the baby boomers. So the baby boomers were born 1946 through 1964. On technology, some of them are kind of still hesitant, but they're still capable. They can function, they can send their emails, but it might still not be their strength. They might not still feel comfortable with that. Communication style, we're still kind of formal. They still like to do face-to-face meetings, so they would rather do that than probably have a phone conference. They might talk on the phone. They do email. The reporting still kind of hierarchy. They still are used to that very structured hierarchy. Again, more time off. These are your folks that have more vacation time. They're probably needing some medical benefits. And the boomers are accused of being workaholics, and we'll talk about that a little more. Professional development wise, they're again still wanting to do more of your face-to-face, your seminar, your classes. And again, mentoring. Some of these folks, as we know from the silver tsunami that's starting to happen, they're getting ready to retire. So a lot of those folks are going to leave our chapters. We need to learn from them while we can. So our next group, if I can get my computer to work with me here and go to the next page, are the Gen Xers. So these are the folks born 1965 through 1980. So it's kind of funny. I love doing this presentation because I am right on the line. I was born in February of 65. So I'm probably, I guess, what you would call a boxer. I'm a boomer and an Xer. And so I have traits of both. And yeah, I do love dogs, but anyway. So I fall into this boxer phase. So with with the Gen Xers, we started getting computers, and some of the later ones, of course, grew up with them. So there's a mix of technology. Some are still hesitant, some are very capable, some are experts. With communication style, we're a little less formal. The Xers fall into email and instant messaging. That's what they kind of grew up with. So they're more comfortable with a less formal form of communication. Reporting, so they're kind of more the me generation. They're very competitive, but they grew up respecting hierarchy. So they're not as structured and as the boomers and the traditionalists, but they still respect the hierarchy. With Xers, their needs, they're starting to age. They want a little more time off. They still have family. A lot of them want to be challenged, but they have a work-life balance. And so with your chapters, you kind of have to figure out how you can work that into their schedules. Professional development, they're a mix. They like seminars, but they still like your just-in-time type education. So they like the webinars. They like to be able to access things online. Mentoring, it's good to pair them with seasoned employees. It's great for them to learn from those folks. If you have chapter members that have been around for a long time, it's great to do a mentoring program with them. And let me say one thing too about these categories. I know when we did this session at Chapter Academy, people were like, well, because we're about to go to the millennials here. I'm not a millennial. Those ages aren't right. This is just general that I pulled from the internet. So if you feel like you're not really in one of these categories, it's okay. Just wanted to make that caveat there. So let's talk about the Gen Ys, or as they're known, the millennials. These folks are born in 1981 to 1995. When it comes to technology, they're experts. They grew up with it. They expect it at work. They expect it in our chapters. And they could be discouraged if it's not available, if it's not used. They're the ones that we got to be able to reach out to in the method they like. Communication, same thing. They're very used to using social media, email, instant messaging, which we don't really do that much of anymore. So it's a very informal form of communication. They're used to texting, so they are very accustomed to using, the abbreviations and the text lingo. Reporting, so they're not so much of a hierarchy as they prefer kind of mentored teams and networking. They're used to working more in groups. Being a boxer like I am, we're independent. We were used to, yes, take this event and go run with it. And with the millennials, they really like and prefer to work in teams for the most part. Needs, their work, their assignments have to kind of match their values. And again, they're just very team oriented. Professional development, they like the online learning, the just-in-time learning. They like ongoing input, whereas your more seasoned folks might say, I want to go to this class and I want to learn this and I'll go on my way. These folks might want continuous education and continuing information coming at them through your websites, through your chapter. Again, mentoring here is very important. Definitely pair them with seasoned employees and seasoned chapter members because they're looking for the coaches. They're the great folks that are going to take over and run with this whole thing someday. So we want to bring them up to speed and make sure we get them mentored with some of our folks that have been around. So Gen Zs are probably our youngest folks we have in the chapters right now. So they were born approximately 1996 through 2012. They live, eat, and breathe technology. They have grown up with it as well. It's embedded in their life. They expect it at work in their chapters. And again, they might be discouraged if it's not available or not used. So we want to make sure we have that kind of technology to reach them. Communication, again, they may not interact well with face-to-face because they have grown up, whoops, sorry about that, with the technology. Sorry, my slides took off. There we go. They reporting, they're used to working online and networking. Their needs, they need challenge. They're especially younger people are that way anyway, but they will want a challenge. They want opportunity to do things that will help them learn and advance in the chapters, but they're also independent. They can absolutely work on their own. Professional development, again, they're very much the online, just-in-time learning generation. And mentoring, again, it's great to pair them with seasoned, but they like to be able to work independently as well. So let's dance. So some of you, I think it's still morning time where you're at, but some of you, it's probably about 2:15 in the afternoon or 1:15, and so it's after lunch. So if you need a stretch, go ahead and get up, do a little dance. But based on these next pictures, I just want you to kind of see these. Which generation do you fall in there? We have the electric slide. So we have that. We have the YMCA, the Village People. We have the cha-cha slide. We have the bunny hop. We have the twist. We have Gangnam Style. I never say that word right. And we have the hustle. So you can kind of see all of these float through all the different generations, and it helps to form who we become as we grow up and learn our way. So next question we have is, what's your jam? So Justin's got another little poll to pop up there. Fill in for me, please, and put which one's your favorite dance that you would like to do. We'll give you a minute to vote there.
We'll give everybody about 5 more seconds. And Penny, here are your results.
Okay. So we got a lot of YMCA folks out there. Of course, I think everybody knows how to do that dance. It's at ball games, it's at football games, it's everywhere, but I see one bunny hop. Hey, we got a bunny hop. So there you go. For those of you who don't know the bunny hop, it's a cute little dance. I recommend you go Google it. It's fun to watch. You can see it on YouTube, but a lot of cha-cha slide folks out there too. So great. Thank you all for participating in that, so we can kind of see, it helps us see kind of what your generation is. So now that we know who they are, what do? Now what? So the next few slides, I want to talk about kind of some of the tools and some of the processes you can take to help kind of work across all these generations. And while we're gearing this towards your chapter, this of course works in your workplace as well, and just in life in general. So we're going to talk about kind of bridging the gap. So one of the first things I want to talk about is finding common ground. You can absolutely, once you build you have your chapter members and your boards and so forth, it's good to share common activities. So if you find a group of everybody has common interests. So it's good to kind of find what those are. Understand what motivates your members. Why do they want to participate? Are they, what is it they like to do? What's driving them to help your chapter? It's good to kind of learn that from everybody and see what they like doing, because it helps you know the best place for them in their chapters. Doing less with more means need for more teamwork. All of us, many of us come from very lean agencies. Since we're all mostly government employees or nonprofits or those types of agencies, it's difficult. I think we continuously do more and more with less in our agencies. So you have to keep that in mind, because we need to work as a team together, but not everybody's going to have the availability all the times that they can actually help out with the chapter. Another thing with common ground also is to make sure, so as you're doing chapter meetings, it's good to find out, what do people like? Do they like to do the face-to-face meetings? Can you do your board meetings through like a Zoom meeting? Poll your members and kind of find out what works best for them as far as teamwork. Another thing to be really cautious with is to avoid negative stereotypes. So just like we were just talking about all these generations and what they like and what they don't like. Me being a boxer, I am a workaholic. I think several people, probably even some of these people on the webinar who know me, would readily say, oh yeah, that girl can't stop. But I'm the Xer, so I love the technology. I'm immersed in it. I don't put my phone down most of the time. And I've always been a bit of a techie. So you have to be careful to not assume because somebody's a boomer that they're not going to like technology or they're not going to back you in doing some great new event or something like that. So you have to be really careful. It takes some conscious effort to do that because sometimes you just look at a person who's seasoned. You notice I don't say old. And you think, oh yeah, they're not going to dig this. They might. They actually might. So you might be surprised. And just conversely with your millennials and with your Gen Zs, they're not necessarily always tied to their technology. I've actually seen a lot more boomers that are probably more tied to their technology than some of the younger folks. So just be cautious of that. Don't just assume, and don't avoid asking somebody to do something in your chapter because you think they wouldn't like to do so. Learn from each other. So this is one of my favorite parts. Seasoned generations share experience and new generations teach us old dogs a new trick. I personally am one of the more seasoned members in my chapters, and so I've made several mistakes in life, and so I have some wisdom to share, and I have knowledge of what we've done in our chapters over the years. There's other folks that have been around the chapters a lot longer than me, so they know what has worked in the past, what might not have worked, but yeah, it's still good to listen to the newer members and the millennials and the Gen Zs, because they might have some great new ideas. And when they bring up something, you might be like, if they ask you, why do we still do this way? Or like, oh, because we've always done it that way. Okay, that's the worst answer in the world. And we all hate that, don't we? So it's good for them to teach us some new things. I have a fun story that when I joined ETPA, one of the younger members actually taught me how to text, because it was back when we still had the phones and you had to push 3 times to get a C, and I didn't know how to text on my phone. So I was able to learn how to text from one of our members. So make sure you learn from each other. It's great to set up cross-generational mentoring opportunities. I know not all chapters have a formal mentoring program, but you can still even do that within your committees. So if you've got like a trade show committee or a scholarship committee or any types of your committees, it's great to maybe do some of those mentoring opportunities there where you pair a seasoned member with one of your younger members. Absolutely, you need to value the diversity and inclusion. It's great to get the information from everybody. Everybody has different ideas, and it can really strengthen your chapter when you pull on the strengths of that diversity. And of course, have patience with each other. I know personally, when I was younger in the profession, I would get impatient. It's like, oh, why can't we just do this? Why can't we forge forward? And I had to learn that there were people that had more wisdom than me and knew why we shouldn't just forge forward. So it's good to learn that. It's good to have patience with each other on that. You'll learn a lot more from each other if you take the time to do that. So work-life balance. So as we've kind of seen in the differences in the generations, some of our seasoned members there's more of an emphasis on work ethic. As I readily admitted, I'm a workaholic. Not everybody is, and that's good. A lot of younger folks grew up with both parents working, so they value the balance and they want their work and their efforts to have value. So you need to kind of balance that and find what's your best way to have those folks work in your chapter. Some folks want to jump all in and they want to volunteer for everything, and that's great. Others will want to just volunteer for maybe specific tasks. It's really good if you can break down some of the work in your chapter to, hey, we've got this one-time thing. We need you to do some name badges for this event. Some people are like, yes, I will take that on because they want to have that work balance. One thing I've seen work really well with some chapters is to have a facilitated retreat with their board or with all their chapter committees and board officers. It's a great way to do team building. It's a great way to learn some of these communication skills that you're going to need to work across the many generations. So it's really good to take some time and do that. Might not be easy, but it's a good way to get everybody together and kind of you can see everybody's strengths and who wants to work on what. Use of new recruitment tools. I think all of the chapters, if you go out and talk to all of us at some point, and I hear this, excuse me, across the board when we do chapter visits, how do we get new members? How do we recruit? That's one of the biggest challenges I think that we all face. And so I think, you know, our previous model probably of reaching out and say, hey, come to a meeting, we'll comp your dinner or whatever, might not be the best recruitment tool. We might need to use some new ways of getting people in. And there again, it would be good for some of our newer professionals to help us tell us what we need to do. How do we do that? So communication style. You have to communicate with your members in the style that they prefer. So again, it kind of harkens back to those generations again. If you have some of your seasoned members and you want to ask them to do something for your chapter, you might want to call them or you might want to drop by if you can do that. If you have some of the younger generations, text them. If they're the boxers like me, email them on the grandpa box. So you have to, it's helpful and you'll reach your members better if you communicate in the style that they prefer. Stop to listen to them. That's a really big key issue. And I know that's kind of hard sometimes with the chapters. But it goes for all generations. Not only do the seasoned folks need to listen to the younger folks, but the younger folks also need to listen to the seasoned people. And some ways you can do that with your chapters, I think some really good things I've seen in different chapters is if you have new members, you might want to have like a new member breakfast, or if you want to get your board together quickly, you could do like a morning coffee huddle, or maybe you do that for all of your members to have a quick gathering. It doesn't have to be a meeting with a full-blown agenda or anything. It's just kind of a way that you get to all meet together and talk about what's going on in your chapter. I've also seen, like, for young professionals, a pub crawl. So that's a great thing. I see a question. You missed the grandpa box. There's a cartoon at the front. The grandpa box is the laptop. So that's what some of the younger folks call our laptops. So I saw that question pop up. But it's good to do like a pub crawl for your young professionals. You could do something like that. You can have some of your seasoned members do a welcome for some of your newer board members or chapter members. These are all ways that you can all communicate together and take time to actually listen to what folks are wanting to do in your chapter. So we've got another poll. How do you communicate? So Justin, I'm sorry, if you want to pop that up. Answer these questions for me, and then I want to talk to you about what this is an exercise that we've done. So it'll be kind of fun to see your answers, and then I want you to think about what this means. We're asking, like, so if you like to read a book or you like to read on your device. Do you like to shop online or in the store? Do you use Facebook and Twitter, or do you use Snapchat, Instagram? So go ahead and fill out that poll.
And we'll leave this up for another 10 seconds. And Penny, here are the results.
Okay, great. Okay, so as you look at this, you can kind of see a mix, right? You see that about 37% like to read on a device. More seem to like to shop online than in the store. And more still use, looks like Facebook, some more use social media than not. So this is a really good exercise that you can actually take back to your chapter. We did this and it was kind of fun because some of the seasoned people ended up where they thought the young people would end up and vice versa. So the way you can do this with your chapter is kind of line everybody up in one single line. And if they like the more technology type things, so say if they like to read on their device, have them step forward or be in one. And then if they don't, if they prefer the book, have them step backward or do a -1. And you can kind of keep doing that with several different topics. You can see if they like to shop online or in the store. Do they like using social media or not? There's other topics you can do. So do they prefer to take a shuttle from the airport or do they Uber and Lyft? Do they like to meet for dinner? Do they prefer chat rooms? Do they can't stand to wait for the brand new iPhone to come out, or are they cool with it and they replace it whenever it finally breaks? What this will kind of show, and it was really fun because we did this in our TAP chapter in spring, and so it was kind of fun because you would have thought the folks that were seasoned might be the less technology, and then the folks that were more technology would be, the ones kind of way out front. And it came into a mix. It was really fun to watch because some of those more seasoned folks were up front and some of the young folks were in the back, and they were like, wait, how are you way up there? I'm supposed to be the one that loves technology. And so this is a really fun exercise that you can try to do. And this kind of goes back to don't assume that you know what everybody likes. Just because, like I said early on, just because I look seasoned doesn't mean that I don't like technology, or just because I'm a Gen Z doesn't necessarily mean I want to do everything technology based. So it's really important to get to know your folks and kind of learn how to communicate with them. So next we have, now that we've figured that out, we've got it right. We've figured out we've got 5 generations, and now we know how to communicate with them, and we know what they like, and we're going to figure out how we want to use them in the chapter. We got it all figured out. But coming soon to an office near you is Generation Alpha. So yes, the 6th generation is coming. These are the folks born after 2012. So it's really kind of interesting. I love this quote. They're born to digital technology like it's a 5th element of nature. Alphas will be the wealthiest, the most intensely educated, and most dynamic generation that human society has yet seen. So the thing that got me about this, I thought this was really interesting. Technology is embedded in their life. Many may never drive a car. Isn't that wild? But think about it. We have self-driving cars on the horizon. I know I've seen some of the buses are coming. People take Uber and Lyft, and there will be all sorts of advances in technology with that. And I'm sure there will be more and more as this generation comes along. I personally have a Gen Z at home. He does not drive yet, even though he's 18. I love that I get to talk about him all the time, but he doesn't. He's like, why should I? I can ride the bus. We live in town. If I have to go far, I can get an Uber. So he has no desire to drive. So that may become a challenge as we keep going forward with some of our chapters, that we will have to rethink. How do we get this education to our members? How do we get them to interact with us? I know here in Tennessee, we do have a statewide chapter TAP, and so our state is very long. It's from Memphis to Bristol is 8-10 hours, I think. I think I can be to Michigan sooner than I can get from one end to the other. And so that's one thing we're having to address with our membership. Folks don't want to travel to the middle of the state or from Bristol to Memphis. They want the technology so that we can meet from our offices. So I think that's going to be one of our biggest challenges that we have in our chapters as we go forward, is we've got to be mindful of how we communicate to everybody and how we get everybody engaged. So next, before we go into questions, I want to put a quick plug in. I hope a lot of you will be in Austin here in a little over a week for NIGP Forum 2019. If you are and you're in a smaller, medium-sized city, come see me on Sunday morning. I will be helping to facilitate the small and medium cities agency-based networking session at 10 a.m. With that, I think we'll turn it over. Do we have questions out there?
Hi, this is Jennifer Steffen, our Chapter Relations Manager. Currently, we don't have any questions out there. So this is your opportunity to, if you're a chapter leader, maybe share an experience or something that you have dealt with that Penny touched on. I know this is a big subject and a big issue for a lot of our chapters. So maybe you want to share that, or you have a question specifically for Penny on something that she presented. So now is that chance to ask of her. So please type away. We'll wait here a few minutes to see if anybody has anything. Kevin did respond, said, great insight on each generation. Never thought about how to handle each generation before. Truly helpful. So that's great. Got a lot of great job, Pennies.
Hi, Joe.
And I think it is interesting. This is, I think, a fascinating subject matter, and I didn't even realize it, Penny, until you brought it up about that we're seeing not only in the workplace but in our chapter so many generations for the first time, and you really have to think out of the box of how to connect and work across all of those, and going further into the future of how do you deliver things. You know, are those next generations going to want to meet face to face and come to a conference or reverse trade shows or all those things you guys work on? Here's a great question. Are there any good resources out there for conflict resolution for issues between generational workers? Did you find anything on that, Penny?
I have not. That's a good question. Let me look into that. Yeah.
Okay. And we can do that, and we can also share, just for those that may not be within the chapter structure, we will put this PowerPoint in the recording in what is the chapter online resource guide. It's something that everybody can access. So if we have any other follow-up material, Penny, we can post it there as well.
That's a good question.
Did you find that it was very different to work with Gen Xer bosses versus Gen Y bosses?
Yes, I think it is. And I've seen this a little bit in our chapters. So we, because of the generational differences, you see that it's a little different. With Gen Y, it might not be quite as organized necessarily as it would be with the Gen X's. So yeah, we're seeing some differences. And you have to adjust. It's just like the difference between working for a boomer boss versus a Gen X boss. I think those differences are there as well.
We also have another question. Does your chapter have big lessons learned regarding generational differences?
I don't think we do at this point. I've noticed with our chapter so far, we haven't had really a young leader rise up to the top yet. I think we'll see that in the next couple of years in both of our chapters, truthfully. So haven't really, I don't know that I have any big lessons. That's a good question.
And I'm seeing slowly, that was Stacy Gregg that asked that question. Sorry, Stacy, I called you out. We are seeing some of our chapters have this younger generation rise up to the presidency, which I think is exciting. But I'm also seeing it's because it's a chapter that has a lot of mentoring. So you talked a lot about that partnering up. So they're coming up through the ranks and working with those that are moving out of those roles. So there is some grooming and mentoring to help have that young generation feel comfortable leading, understanding kind of the nuances of the chapter and running a nonprofit like we are. It's not everywhere, but we are slowly starting to see that happen within the chapters, which I think is very exciting, but slow moving. Any other questions or any other things that a chapter wants to share that they've done across the generations? I've actually seen some chapters do at their monthly meetings, they do a pair up where they will purposely pair up somebody from the different generations, kind of to force you to interact and engage. It's very easy for you to sit with who you know and who you work with maybe. So they've really forced, and you can do it through generations, not just maybe different agencies or where you work, but make those pairings more thoughtful so that engagement can start, that lessons learned can start for the generations too.
That's Jen. We've done some of that with our chapters, where we play like a bingo game, and you have to go find somebody that's done all these things in these boxes. So it makes everybody interact. I know Carl was at our spring conference at SNAP, and we did a Monopoly game, and kind of the same thing. You had to go find a person from each agency, and meet them and talk to them, and have them sign your card. And so it really helped mix people together and get them to meet each other and work together.
Absolutely, because again, it's very easy to kind of go with your comfort zone. It's one of the things that we do at the Academy and the Chapter Leadership Academy. It's really important to us is that we make you meet other people. And a lot of people say that's outside of my comfort zone. I don't want to engage with somebody I might not know. But in the end, we hear they're so thankful that they wouldn't have learned things. That's a good thing, is to kind of mix it up. We do have another question. In your experience with your various purchasing committees, do you find that most purchasing departments are either mostly one generation, i.e. young versus older, with a Generation X or baby boomer heading the department?
That's a good question. Some of them still are, yes, but I'm seeing that change. It's actually happening here in my agency. I'm the boxer, now leading the department, and then I have a lot of millennials. I have 3 actually millennials working for me now. So it's, and we're getting there. It's starting to change. As I said, that silver tsunami is happening. So we're really starting to see a lot of the boomers retire. So it's changing.
And Stacy Gregg also said that when she was president of her chapter, which was SCAGPO, she planned a young professionals reception and invited specific seasoned members with the purpose to engage the younger group. That's great. Great idea.
Yeah, I know one thing we've done in ETPA is do kind of a breakfast. When we have new members join, we'll do a breakfast each year and invite them to the board and the committee members. So it's a great way to kind of get them interactive with them.
Any other questions for the group here? We had somebody ask if we're going to present at NIGP on this, and I assume you mean at Forum. And no, I don't believe we have a session on this at Forum. This was just, again, an extension of what we talked about at our chapter academy. But if it's a subject that we think that we can do again, maybe have a panel discussion in future, I will certainly take that, Ernie, to our education department as a possible future, maybe face-to-face or even an elaborated session via online somehow. I don't see that we have any other questions here. So I want to thank you, Penny, very much. Appreciate you putting this on for us today, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. Please take time to fill out the evaluation survey that will be coming to you tomorrow, as well as a recording of the webinar. And again, for those of you that are not ingrained in the chapter world, we will save this PowerPoint. You did get it this morning with your link for the presentation, but we will save it there. Penny, you were going to look into some conflict resolutions, and if we can find anything, we'll post that all in the online chapter resource guide is what it's called, and it's under webinars there. and that's where you'll find this recording in the PowerPoint. If that's it, then thank you everybody for today. We appreciate it and have a great day.
Thank you all.